Joining me right now is Kentucky Senator, member of the Senate Foreign Relations and Senate Homeland and Governmental Affairs Committees, Rand Paul. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria.
What about those higher numbers? At some point, debt is going to become an issue, right? Where are you on all of this, Rand?
If it were true that we could always just print up money and give it to people, why wouldn't we do it all the time? No, there are economic ramifications to doing this. We've accumulated, nearly $4 trillion, maybe $5 trillion in debt in 1 year. Some of us remember when we were unhappy with George W. Bush accumulating $5 trillion in 8 years. Now we're doing $5 trillion in 1 year. No, there's a great danger to having so much debt added at one time. It makes no economic sense. The other thing is what's killing the economy, and what killed the economy was government shutting it down, largely Democratic governors. If you give them money, they will keep it closed. So you can't, if you want an incentive to open, you have to tell the Democratic governors, guess what, no free money, and then they'll have to open the economy, and that's what has to happen.
Well, that's what Joe Biden said the other day when asked. He said, look, I'm going to look at the science. I would shut it all down. I mean, there are people and businesses that have lost their livelihoods. Are they going to get it back? There are many industries, in fact, Senator, that won't make it out of this.
I think that's true, but blame that on the people who shut your government down, not on those of us who said we shouldn't have done it. Here's the interesting thing when you look at the science. The left says, look at the science. Well, here's the science on the mortality of this virus. In the United States, we now have a per capita mortality that exceeds Sweden. Sweden did very little of anything, and they wound up with about the same mortality as us. So it could be that all of the government shutdown did nothing to stop the virus. We got the virus anyway. Look at New York. New York has had incredible government intervention in their economy. They're still closed in many ways. And New York had 3 times higher death rate than any place in the world. So maybe government did the wrong thing by shutting the economy down. And maybe we should have protected our elderly, something that Governor Cuomo seems to have forgotten in all his edicts.
Well, you're right, and many of the critics of the president and yours on the left continue to fail to disavow the unrest in our cities. You dealt with this firsthand. I'm talking about the damage from riots and looting across America following the death of George Floyd, reportedly estimated to be the costliest in insurance history, between $1 billion and $2 billion. Senator, when you were there at the White House and you were with your wife and these rioters and anarchists coming right in your face, can you tell us about what was going through your mind and what happened that day?
I think that we would have met with a violent end had the police not been there. I truly believe that the police saved our lives. I was able to thank 2 of them, with a note the other day. I haven't yet been able to meet them, but I still would like them to be able to come to the White House and be honored for their service. They would have killed us had the police not stopped them. One of the policemen was attacked shortly after we got into the hotel, received stitches in his face, and the D.C. judicial system let him go. I mean, they arrested him, but he's released on his own recognizance. We cannot let people who assault policemen go. If not, well, if we do, what happens is you encourage people to then go one step further and decide to shoot the police. We have to punish these people, and the people who are accosting people. If you were invading a restaurant and throwing someone's food on the ground, you were invading private property. That is a crime, and you should go to jail for it. If you were impeding someone from moving, if you were surrounding people, screaming at them and not letting them move and threatening them, that you should go to jail for that. But if you put no one in jail, like in Portland, you get more of it. They've had 3 months of it now. And I think the election ultimately will hinge on this. People are going to have to decide, do you want all of America to look like Portland? And I think people are going to say, no, we don't. We want law and order. We don't want to defund the police. And absolutely, Joe Biden has not disavowed that. He says, oh, I'm not for defunding the police, but he's for reallocating the money away from the police. That's the same thing. So, yes, they're going to have to disavow this movement on their left, but I think the election could hinge on it.
Well, Senator, I've got to thank you for the courage that you've shown. I mean, you are a sitting senator, and what you have had to deal with, from your neighbor to now getting accosted with your wife, and really, thank you for your strength and your courage. I'm just in awe of what you've had to deal with. personally.
If anybody knows about political violence, it's me. I was there at the ball field when Steve Scalise almost died. One of the young staffers was 10 feet from me, was shot. I had 6 of my ribs broken by somebody who hates the president and wished violence on the president and myself. You know, then we were surrounded by a mob. Our country needs law and order. We do need a president who will stand for us. But really, law and order primarily comes from mayors and from governors. And in every one of these states and every one of these cities where there's mayhem, they've been run by the Democrats for 50 years. And really, people in those cities who have their children being shot need to think about, why do we keep voting for the Democrats who don't seem to care about the little lives of our children and the other people being shot in our neighborhoods?
What's your take on AG Barr telling the nation's federal prosecutors to be aggressive when charging violent demonstrators with crimes, including potentially prosecuting them for plotting to overthrow the U.S. government? This is from the Wall Street Journal. Sedition. What's your take on what Barr apparently is telling prosecutors?
You know, I think we do have to draw the line. My preference is always that law and order, for the most part, disrupting the public, people mobbing people, not letting them move, would be local crimes and should be adjudicated locally. But there's sort of an abdication going on the left. They've decided that, you know, it's a summer of love and everybody loves each other and this is the First Amendment. The First Amendment does not allow you to go into a restaurant and assault people. You know, remember the woman where everybody's shaking their fist and she's in a D.C. restaurant sitting outside? That is a crime, and those people have to be arrested. They're not being arrested, so we're getting more of this. And restaurants going to discover this also. Who's going to want to eat at a restaurant outside in D.C.? We can't eat inside because of the virus precautions, and we can't eat outside because of the mob. That's not a good thing for restaurants.
Absolutely. And it's completely ignored by the media once again, Senator. Also ignored by the media is this incredible historic peace agreement between Israel and the Arab nations, first United Arab Emirates, now Bahrain, as the U.S. commits to withdraw its Middle East footprint in Iraq and Afghanistan. Senator, your reaction to what we've seen here, are there more countries behind UAE and Bahrain that will recognize Israel and move to normalize relations?
Yeah, I have to say I was taken kind of off guard and pleasantly surprised by this, because it's kind of thinking outside the box. The tradition has been that we need a grand Middle East peace agreement that the Palestinians and the Israelis agree to. But really, this is going in another direction, but still a useful direction and a constructive one, to get peaceful trade and relationships developed between Israel and our neighbors. So I think it is a step forward. On reducing troops in Afghanistan, I encourage the president, every time I see him, let's end the war. The American people are tired of the war. It's incredibly expensive, $50 billion a year, not spent on our soldiers, spent on building roads and gas stations and hotels over there. We don't have enough money. We need to spend that money here at home, but we also need to end the war. The mission is over. The military mission in Afghanistan is long since over.
All right, Senator, it's great to get your insights on all of this. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, Senator. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.